What up now, good people? It feels so good to be back to the Full Coverage Football Show. My name is Jeremy, and on the other side of this lovely opening, I'll be back with my tag team partner, Mr. Detroit Dave, Mr. Drew Ward. Tonight, we got a fun show for you. We're going to old school. We haven't really talked about the show tonight. We're going all off the top of the head, and that's when we do our best work. So this show is going to be something you're going to want to listen to. So for those watching on YouTube, Periscope, or Facebook, do us a favor, like and share those posts. Get it out there. For those of you listening later on your podcast, do the same thing. Just enjoy it. Spread the word. Let's have some fun tonight. We got a good show. We're talking preseason. We're talking Zach Wilson's mom controversy. I'm going to talk to Deshaun Watson because there's still something bugging me about that. And I'm going to bring up Colin Kaepernick just for Drew. That and more. See you in 30. I lied. I'll see you in 27 seconds because that's apparently how long it is. What is happening, my brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. Good weekend. Nice weather. Did a little pool in this weekend.
Nice.
So yeah, so I'm good. Yeah, it's been a while too since we've talked football.
Yeah.
I feel like so I'm definitely looking forward to bullshitting some football here with you, my friend.
Well, let's get into it. Why wait? For those watching, like, share. Like I said, this is the Full Coverage Football Show. You'll see our sponsors crawl across the bottom. Thank you to them. My name's Jeremy. That's Drew. Good enough. Let's go. Deshaun Watson. I have talked about this for anybody who watches or listens to the program. Deshaun Watson still sitting in limbo. We have no resolution to any of this. And I know we don't want to throw an innocent man into suspension or some shit, what they're worried about, saving face. But at this point, this guy can't get on the practice field. I mean, he can be on the practice field. He's over there stretching on the side like he doesn't even belong with the team. Like, he's no closer to the team than you and I are. I mean, he's just sitting there. Nothing's going on. They can't trade him because his trade value's dead. Roger Goodell, put this man on the commissioner's exempt list. Get it going. Do something so we know what is going on with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, there's a shit off the field that's got to get taken care of. He's not playing football anytime soon. Put him on the exempt list for his sake, for the Texans' sake, and for anyone who's actually interested in trading for his ass. Drew, what do you got to say about the situation as we get into the, last week of preseason almost here?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's to your point. We look at this from not only a football perspective, but for a fantasy perspective. Yeah. It's kind of hard as an owner of Deshaun Watson right now, kind of not having any idea of what's going on. I think that, from the fantasy perspective, certainly you would – not only do we have all the allegations and things that have been laid out, but then we have the fact that he's pretty much said he doesn't want to play in Houston, right? Yep. So not only is the allegation legal side still in limbo and completely in a gray area, he doesn't even have a team that he's going to be playing on. So it's hard to – especially from a fantasy perspective, you would want something to have been – certain at this point, whether it's anything. How many games he's going to be suspended, what teams he's going to be on, anything. And we haven't heard much news on it at all here recently, besides the back and forth, the FBI, what so be it. But yeah, it's tough. We don't expect him to play for Houston. That's one thing. But all these other things need to be cleared up first before, again, there's going to be a suspension more than likely coming down. The NFL has kind of stayed away from it to this point. So it's hard to pinpoint where he's going to play, when he's going to play. I just think that everything's so uncertain at this point. It's kind of hard to say.
I mean, I've been hitting on this since June, I think. Like, just do something now for the women that are accusing him for their sake. Say, NFL, hey, we care about women. This is what we care about. We care about putting out that we care about breast cancer in October. And it's not just for the money we're getting from all the pink gear. No, NFL doesn't care about anything but the green, and we've been over that a million times. But this is not a good situation for anyone. Money aside, Deshaun Watson's playing career aside, he's got stuff off the field he needs to take care of. Put him on that damn exempt list. Give the Texans that roster spot back. Give him the chance to be away from the game and tell him basically, dude, you got to get your shit together off the field. Step away from the game right now. It's what's best for you. Instead, he's there to Texans practice. Why do we want to call him the Titans?
It's weird. It's weird, like that he's there, right? Like he doesn't want to be there. The Texans I don't think necessarily even want him there, but for his sake and his wallet's sake, he showing up, and it all feels uncomfortable. It all feels strange. It's just weird seeing him even at a practice where he's not doing anything, but just for everything and the way that everything looks right now, that there's so much uncertainty across the board that it's kind of strange to see him being at practice, although he's standing around, he's not doing anything because
he's a damn spectator.
Yeah, the last thing the Texans want to do is have him go out there and do something, and then he gets injured, and then now we add another layer to what's already kind of a messy situation.
Let both sides move on. Let Deshaun take the year, give him the damn year off. Suspend him for the whole year for right now. I don't care what you do. Just do something with this so there's some resolution. Say you care about the stuff off field. Say you don't want him anywhere near your product. You shouldn't at this point. If any of the shit that's about him is true, you shouldn't want him on the field right now or maybe ever again, but probably he's going to get another chance because, as we know, if you got talent, you're getting another chance, and Deshaun's got moons and mounds of talent.
Dude is good.
Do something, Roger, finally, to get this done for the Texans' sake so they can move on as a franchise. I mean, this is a team that's totally revamped everything. New head coach, new front office. They're trying to move on from this. Deshaun doesn't want to be there. Just do something. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Now, let's get on to what we've actually seen on the field here in preseason. Anything standing out to you so far in what you've seen in preseason? I know you've probably caught some games, probably picked it up on Twitter, all that as usual.
Absolutely. Young quarterbacks. I mean, Zach Wilson, for example, Friday night?
Friday night?
Was
it last? I don't remember my days all blend together.
It was a foggy day for me in general. It was a party. Things may or may not have been forgotten. But Zach Wilson looked really good. I mean, you could argue all of Trey Lance looked good. We've seen Mac Jones. I've been able to watch Mac Jones' entirety for both games that they've played. And then you throw in Justin Fields, who, I guess he had a rough day at the office yesterday or Friday again. One of those 2 days where, he took a hit that was pretty rough to watch.
That tells you why guys aren't playing in the preseason. Starters who have been there before.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, for example, tonight, just tuning in, and it'll be good to see Trey Lance tonight. But one of the things that I've found interesting is how teams have played so far in these first 2 games with the starters, right? Kansas City, for example, they played their starters pretty much the entire first half, where teams like the Rams, Stafford's not going to play.
Browns.
Yeah, the Browns. And so it's interesting to see for me how teams have played this preseason. Of course, it's always hard to determine what we're seeing because it's a very vanilla defense, and you're not really throwing out much looks that you're going to see in the regular season. But it's definitely interesting to see because usually this week, in theory, would be, if this was week 3 of the preseason, would be what we refer to as the dress rehearsal game, where you're going to see the guys for at least a half of football. And I just don't see that's not going to happen this week, or this year rather. So it'll be interesting to see once we actually do get around to week 1. Teams are going to be knocking off rust, right? These guys haven't had really any in-game reps as far as the first unit. So that'll be interesting to me. But yeah, definitely, of course, we always look towards the quarterbacks. And I think there's been a lot of good things that we've seen from some of the quarterbacks that were taking the top of the class.
Yeah, this class looks really good so far early. Obviously, it's just preseason vanilla defenses, as you mentioned. Like we saw Justin Fields' his first game look phenomenal. And yes, it's preseason. He said, I'm already used to the speed of the NFL. No, boy, you're used to preseason speed, which is different, but you still look pretty good. He still looks better than Andy Dalton has so far, but, Andy Dalton had that one good drive, so Matt Nagy can now say, well, this is why he's our starter.
Right.
Either way, Justin Fields obviously going to get on the field at some point. Trey Lance, 5 of 14, I think, last week. He had some issues, but he had the one play, 80 yards, where you just saw the skill. You saw him break down the field. You saw the accuracy, the rifle arm, and he's playing tonight at SoFi against the Chargers. That game's on now, I believe. And
started.
You get to see that. Jimmy G going to play probably into the second quarters from what I've heard, and then you'll see Trey Lance, and then they move on to Nate Sudfeld, the great Nate Sudfeld.
I think Jimmy has to play too, right?
Yeah.
I think Jimmy's going to be the starter, of course, week 1. To your point, I think Aiden Dalton's going to be the starter week 1. But when you're the 49ers and your quarterback position isn't necessarily solidified as some other teams, I think you have to get a look at both guys kind of in totality over the preseason just to see exactly what you got. Where we think a lot of these situations come week 7, week 10 that we're going to see. I mean, we're going to see Zach Wilson right away. We're going to see Trevor Lawrence right away. No matter what Urban says, you know what I mean? Trevor,
try to church it up, Dirt.
I don't know why Urban Meyer thinks this is the first time we've ever watched football like that. Trevor Lawrence isn't going to play right away. But I think, for certain teams, it's these reps are super important, and especially coming off of last year where we didn't have really much of anything. This is kind of guys' first true offseason, right? To where we've got a little bit of everything, and I think it's big for the maturation process of a young player to see kind of how things are done in the offseason, right? A lot of guys, you can see how the professionals around the league and the guys that have had, sustained success over a certain period of time, how they go to work each day and kind of put in the time and effort and make sure that they're in good shape, when September rolls around. So I think that's good for a lot of the young guys to see. And of course, it's super beneficial to this draft class to at least have preseason reps to where last year, it was really tough. And it's even tough. Like, think of it from a perspective last year where we're guys that are trying to make a team and you don't have preseason games, right? So that immediately puts people at a disadvantage because you can't see live game reps of these people. And so I think getting out there, even though it's 3 preseason games, I think that 3 preseason games should be the norm. You could even argue 2, but I definitely don't want the preseason to go away in general, just because it certainly has
Thank you for that.
Some impact for a lot of other people. And I know that the stars, and we're not talking about them, right? Yep. I have no problem with Stafford and whoever's sitting out the entire preseason, Baker, that's not important. We don't need to see Nick Chubb. We know what these guys are, right?
Even guys like Justin Herbert, who's not playing tonight. Fine.
Yep. No, exactly. And think of that was another great point that speaks to Justin Herbert's success last year is, again, he didn't have that time in the offseason to try to get, camaraderie with his teammates. So it was kind of learning on the fly as far as it goes for him.
And you hit it right on the head. I know a lot of people are like, who really cares about preseason? Well, if you go on Twitter, if you talk to anyone who cares about the NFL, a lot of people are watching these preseason games. Everyone's like, why do we have a preseason game at 1:00 on a Sunday? Because the NFL is making the money for it, because NFL Network is airing these games live, and we're all watching them. There are tons of people watching this and then leading right into the top 100 players.
And the NFL has also done a nice job of how they flex the schedule for the preseason to where basically any game's available for you to watch, right?
Absolutely.
They're not all at 1:00, right? Like, I've been able to unfortunately catch the Lions 2 preseason games. So it's kind of nice when you can actually watch a live product, whether it be good or bad. The NFL has done a nice job with that, and it's nice because you have the flexibility this time of year. You can do different things on different days, and so it's been nice as far as a viewer to kind of be able to consume content from multiple different avenues.
100%. And tomorrow night we get the first overall pick on Monday Night Football, which will be excellent to see. Now, as far as teams, you talked about your team. They haven't looked great. But you see that they're trying to do something. I feel like when I've watched the Lions, you see that they're not very deep. But you see that they're going to try to build the product from what it is. They're not going to worry about keeping guys just to keep them, as they did when they cut your long snapper on his birthday. Which, crazy to think, but they're moving on to younger guys now. They got to do that. You're changing the culture. I get that.
And Bullock's 40, dude.
Yeah.
And it sucks because he's like literally – the fact is, as a Lions fan, a long snapper is kind of a team favorite at this point, based off the turnover and whatnot. So, yeah, fans were not thrilled about it. But, again, just bringing new guys in, youthful guys in, and that's certainly – and a position where you can kind of, play with a little bit.
Yep.
It's not as important as other things. But yeah, no, you're right. And listen, we both have expectations for what the Lions are going to be, and they're certainly not great. But again, it's building blocks for me. It's more for me when we talk about the Lions is I just want to see growth from young guys. I also want to see team chemistry, the way that they play for Dan Campbell, because it's going to take time. It's not going to this roster is just it's not good. Jelani Tavai better be cut by the end of this month.
If he is, he's getting picked up by the Pats like the second the papers go through.
Yeah, which is fine, but he's just not good, right? And it just shows like a lot of, and I reference this many times over the last year or 2 years, is like with the specific scheme that Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were trying to instill, it's a lot of square pegs and round holes, especially when it comes to philosophies of other teams. So you got a bunch of misfits on this roster now. It's a bad roster to begin with because of evaluating talent in the first place. But then with Slay going and some of the deals that they've made, Quandre Diggs, and letting some of the veteran leadership out of the room, now you got a bunch of guys like Jelani Tavai that are just not a good fit at all for really any other scheme outside of what they're doing in New England. And I even think to an extent that that's really not what they're doing anymore in New England, right? Like, I think that was kind of a has-been thought process. I feel like Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were stuck in the 90s style of football in their head, drafting guys that we need speed at linebacker in today's game. You see it everywhere, right? You can't just be bringing big, slow guys in a linebacker. And so, again, when you're talking about restructuring the roster itself, it's difficult in a lot of spots because you have a bunch of guys that don't really fit any scheme of really any coach that's going to come in besides Matt Patricia.
You're 100% right on the speed of linebacker. A lot of people, Browns fans, old Browns fans, look at how small Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is. Look how tiny he is. 6'1", 215, 220. Yeah, he's not a big guy, but that's the linebacker in today's era. Look at Darius Leonard, possibly the top inside linebacker in the league right now. Weighs 215. Fred Warner not bigger than 230, 235, I believe. But you hit that on the head is what this team needs to do. And the reason I was bringing them up is because not only did I want to talk about how bad the Pennsylvania teams look, especially the Steelers, how I didn't think they look very good. I think their depth really showed when they played that game against the Lions. But how important the preseason games are and still having them for a guy like you. Your leading receiver right now is Tom Kennedy, an undrafted kid out of Bryant, where this kid is making an impact. You're seeing what he can do when he gets the ball in his hands. This gives him a chance to catch on to somebody's practice squad if he doesn't make the Lions. These kind of games are so important for those kids. The kids that no one talks about, the bottom 10 on the roster, the kids who maybe really got to work from special teams up, but where superstars can still grow. I mean, that's what we missed with the preseason not happening last year. We didn't see some of these kids, so hopefully some of these guys are getting a chance. Kennedy may be one of them. But that's why we need to have these preseason games, people. For everyone who's like, we don't want it. And yeah, they're not great games. It's not really great football. You can really tell now who the well-coached teams are because of the penalties as you get later in the game and who the pretty bad coached teams are. You can see that because of the way the depth goes and how well they're coached from top to bottom. But this is important for these guys to have these games. I mean, it's how your team's going to grow. You got to find guys at the bottom to build to the top.
Well, and last year, again, like when you're talking about a difference between a young guy making a team that you don't really have a lot of tape on or a veteran guy, teams erred on the side of going with what they kind of know as far as people to build on the roster, and guys didn't get jobs because of that, which may or may not have if they had game time. I mean, game action. And yeah, the Lions wide receivers, I mean, it's the room is just atrocious. Like you look at it and you're like, Jesus, like what is going on here? Tyrell Williams is probably the man in the room, and that's just not great. But again, this isn't going to be something that happens overnight for Detroit, but it definitely is beneficial to have preseason games. And trust me, some of them in the fourth quarter are very difficult to watch. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry, but
I mean, I turned off the Browns game today in the fourth quarter. I'm like, yeah, I've seen Robert Jackson pull like 6 penalties straight, like 4 different plays and he got 6 penalties.
I think
Like,
as a
I'm all right.
Browns fan, you have to be, not surprised, but very, very happy and excited for how Case Keenum's looked in the first 2 preseason games. I mean, he's definitely a viable backup.
Yep.
And a lot of the time in this league, backups play, right? For
Browns fans, stop trying to trade the guy right now. You don't need to. I mean, if he became
he makes a lot of money. He does make a lot of money, but it's a valuable
but for this
asset
year,
to have.
right now, that money doesn't mean anything. Next year, yeah, he's probably not going to be with the team. And yeah, Kyle Lauletta been okay, but look at what Kyle Lauletta is playing against. So get away from that. But I do want to talk about the game I watched with your team the other night. I watched the Steelers against your team. The Steelers, that team, there's not a lot of tread left on a lot of those tires. There are guys like Cam Hayward, and I love Cam Hayward, Buckeye, hell of a player. But behind him, I mean, he's old. There's not a lot of tread left on those tires. Behind him, there's not a lot of depth on that team. They just traded for Joe Schobert, who is great at making plays down the field. Never got a guy that gets in the backfield, but he's a leader. I liked him here with the Browns. Nice player, but he doesn't impact. Like, watching that team, they've got some talent at wide receiver, as they always do. If Ben goes down, they're screwed. Don't try to tell me Dwayne Haskins looks great. Don't try to tell me Mason Rudolph looks great. Najee looks pretty good, but that offensive line is pretty sketchy, and they haven't played against anybody great yet. I mean, you look at the age of the guys, Joe Hayden, you're getting up there. You got TJ Watt and you got Minka, and you got to hope that they stay healthy. Otherwise, the Steelers are going to have a bad year, and Mike Tomlin's finally going to have a losing season on his record. That team just does not look good for me. Do you think there's any depth to that team, or do they just? I mean,
no, they're not deep. And the other thing is, which is a great point, is they couldn't run the ball at all last year, at all. And that offensive line hasn't gotten any better. And so, yeah, you want to bring in Najee Harris, who I think is a solid player, and I think he'll do good things. But again, you're running behind a line that's really not giving you a lot of holes as is. Receiver, yeah, they got a lot of speed. They got youth, but again, if they're not unable to run the football, and Ben's going to have to throw 40 times, that's just not a winning recipe for them. Not at all. We kind of saw it towards the back end of last year. We remember what they started like
11-0.
Yeah, 11-0. Yeah, and even at that point, nobody really thought it was a real 11-0 start. The team had holes to it. And I just think, to your point, is there's lots of older guys, and this defense isn't going to be the Steelers' defense that I think that we've seen. But Dupree's gone. There's definitely more holes on the defensive side of the football in Pittsburgh than we've seen for a really long time.
And we'll preview the entire season in about 2 weeks, hopefully here. But the other team in Pennsylvania, that's another team that just looked awful in the preseason. They got stomped 35-0 by the Patriots in Philadelphia. I mean, we talked about Mac Jones that night because we both think Mac Jones he totally just looks like a Patriots player. He fits perfectly. Fits within that offense, just does what he needs to, and he should start day one, in my opinion. But on the other side of the ball there, the Philadelphia Eagles, that team just does not look good at all to me. They just look terrible in both games I've seen them play.
Yeah, and it was weird, too. Like, Jalen Hurts was going to play. Jalen Hurts was on the field for pregame, and then he's dancing around, and then all of a sudden he has a stomach infection. Yeah, but Nick Sirianni, I believe, is the new head coach there. I don't expect them to look great. Again, I still think when things I don't think that they're 100% sold on Jalen Hurts.
They're not.
And yeah, they bring in Devonta. I just think that they're definitely a flawed team, right? And I think that you're clearly seeing a team that with a rookie head coach, lots of moving parts. They're relatively old in positions as well. And it's wild because what I do see from them, it's like a guy that everybody just assumes going to be traded is Zach Ertz. Well, Zach Ertz is kind of like your most reliable offensive weapon to an extent.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know, but yeah, they've looked terrible, man. They really have. And it's again, you take it with a grain of salt, but I don't expect Philadelphia to be very good this year anyway. As Jimmy Garoppolo gets picked off.
Jimmy G, not good for you.
Yeah, so they're a team that I don't expect to have a big year, and I know, again, it's the preseason, but they were a really spotty team last year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, I know they went and added Devontae Smith, but that team still lacks weapons, in my opinion. And you have a quarterback you're not necessarily sure in, and the running game last year wasn't as good as some expected with Miles
Nope.
Sanders.
We're still waiting for you to blow up, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And I was told last year Miles Sanders is like a top 10 running back, and it's just we haven't seen him. Maybe we will this year. But I feel like if you're not 100% sold on Jalen Hurts and your ability to run the football is somewhat flawed, it puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback with there's just not a lot of weapons. And so, yeah, you're right. They've looked terrible. And so take as much as you want to out of being the preseason, but these are also some of the issues that we saw with them last season. So it's not a complete surprise what we're seeing early on.
Yeah, and you said it with grain of salt. I mean, it is the preseason. It is a rookie head coach. There's going to be bumps in the road. Can they win the NFC East? Possibly, because I don't know what any of those teams are going to be this year. Still, that's a division that flip a coin, and yeah, you might get.
I like that division this year, though, man. I do.
It's fun, but who's winning? Is there a team that you know is going to win that division? Like Dallas is the most talented roster.
Well, but they always are. It seems like,
and they just never put. Can they be better than 8-8? Washington's defense.
Washington could be exciting. I mean, I think to me, the way that I look at it right now, it would be Washington or Dallas. And with all due respect to the Giants, I just don't think Daniel Jones is that guy.
I mean, if Danny Dimes bounces back, they might have a good year, but I mean,
bouncing back from what though? When's he ever been back? Like
he looked okay his first season. He went down last year. I mean, does he go back to okay?
And you add, I get they add Kenny Golladay, you had Saquon back. Like I get it, you can make the argument for that, but again, the Giants, the Giants just aren't. To me, they're not. Yeah. It has to be right now at this point with those two teams, and I think depending on the Ryan Fitzpatrick we get in Washington, there's certainly weapons there. You love what they have in the running game, and the front four defensively is just the sickest in the league. So I think the defense keeps them in a lot of football games. I also, on the opposite side of the coin, I think Dallas's defense keeps them out of a lot of football games to where the offense.
Mike McCarthy said he's never seen a side of the ball turned over more than what the Dallas Cowboys did in the offseason.
Everybody shows all these highlights. Everything's highlights of training camp and whatnot. But all these CD Lamb highlights is him just gashing what defense that is. And so, I think the defensive side of the ball, listen, if Dak's healthy, that offense is going to be humming because there's weapons across the board. He was on pace
for 6,300 yards passing last year.
Well, he was also, I think the most attempts in a season was 727 by Matt Stafford. He was going to shatter that at the pace that they were throwing the football. But you also have to think that with a more beefed up, healthy offensive line that it was 2 years ago that we were saying hands down the Dallas offensive line was the best in the league.
Oh, yeah.
And then retirements happen and injuries happen. And then, Zeke didn't have a touchdown after week 5 last year.
And that's a guy that so many people are sleeping on. Like, I feel like Zeke, maybe it's just because I'm a huge Zeke fan of the dude himself for the most part and what he did at Ohio State and what he kind of did his first few years. But that's a guy people are sleeping on. But go ahead.
No, yeah, exactly. And I think that offense complements each other itself well because not only do you have Zeke, you have Tony Pollard, who's very good backup running back.
Backup.
Yeah, and then we've mentioned the receivers between Gallup, Cooper, and CD. It's like there's no excuse for that. Yeah, that offense is going to be humming. I think that Dak stays healthy. They're scoring a lot of points. It's just I look at that team and it's like, how does this team not win 11 or 12 games in a 17-game season? But then we know what Dallas is. Dallas hadn't won shit in forever, dude.
Yeah.
I know it's America's team, but it's been a long time since anything good has come out of Dallas. Yeah. So for me, it's tough to pick in that division, but I think that those two would definitely be my two to take from. And I think this is a make or break year for Daniel Jones, and then we'll see, if they decide to pivot and go elsewhere. But they did add him, get him Kenny Golladay, and you get Saquon back.
They've got a lot of talent for him now.
Yep. So we'll see, man.
Yeah, I mean, that division going to be interesting. Anyone can win it, but I'm with you. It's those two teams at the top. And from preseason, you kind of saw that they're pretty good. I mean, we'll see what Fitzmagic does there. Are we going to get? Is it going to be like 3 weeks in? Fitzmagic's going to get hurt, and then he's going to come back, and they're going to be like week 8, 9, whatever. He's going to have like 7 games left or something, and he's going to just go off on a tear that Fitzmagic does, or is Fitzmagic really on the downside? And
well, I also think Fitzmagic has the keys to the gate now, right? Like he doesn't have somebody looking over his shoulder, like was the case with Tua last year. And the way that Miami handled the Tua and Fitzpatrick thing was comical because the minute Tua had a bad game, they put Fitzpatrick back in.
It is the one mistake we've seen out of that, and we've both talked about how well Brian Flores has done, but that has been the one thing that they've screwed up.
Yep, completely agree.
And that team, we can't. Brian Flores is messing with fantasy owners because he's not letting you have any idea who that starting running back is. We all fell in love with Myles Gaskin last year. And I was like, Myles Gaskin's going to get like 15 carries here, but then we're going to bring in 2 other guys and we're going to give them the same amount. We'll see. We'll talk fantasy probably another show. But let's get into something else here. Any other preseason thoughts you want to get off your head?
No, man, that's it. I'm just ready for the bullets to start flying for real in what 2-3 weeks from now. Because again, preseason's fun. It's good to see football back. And I will I'm gonna be watching it. But yeah, like for example, I mean Justin Herbert not playing tonight. It's just there's not many horses out there, but it's kind of been interesting just to see the strategy by coaches. But Andy Reid, dude, again, he said, hell with it. We're going to play our guys. I mean, and you could say, why the hell would you play Patrick Mahomes? But
because little froggy voice needs to get out there. It shakes off the rust. He's comfy. I mean,
Andy
Tom Brady's
knows
playing.
What he's doing, dude. Yeah.
Tom Brady's playing. But the big thing, let's see some young guys get jobs. Let's see them work for it, earn it. Let's see everyone get through healthy. And I mean, we haven't seen any major injuries in a game, really. It's been in practice, like Carl Lawson going down for the Jets, tough. But Jets, they've looked okay. I mean, Zach Wilson looked good, as you brought up. And speaking of Zach Wilson, so when we do these shows, we always talk football, but I always try to throw something in a little different. And I got 2 things here that are a little different other than football. One, I'm going through Twitter, and there's just all this hate on Zach Wilson's mom. And since Zach Wilson got up to be drafted, we've heard about Zach Wilson's mom. First there was, Zach Wilson's mom's hot. Listen, she's a good-looking woman. I ain't going to deny that. I'll be straightforward with you. She is. Then there was the interview as soon as he got drafted where the one New York reporter just kept saying how hot she was, talking to him, hey, how's your hot mom, this and this and this, which was a reporter being a dick to a rookie quarterback, 21, going into the Big Apple media capital of the world. Pretty shitty thing for him to do. Then there was a report that came out that the Jets had asked Zach Wilson's mom to delete all of her social media. And I didn't understand that, didn't really know. I've never really heard anything from her. And then I'm on Twitter today reading all this hate against her. And this is why. Tell me what you think. Let me get this video.
Every time I go to these parties, I don't wash my makeup off. And that's it. I didn't wash my makeup off last night. And I wake up looking like a crack whore. And I don't know why I do it. It's a weird thing I do. I have a big party.
That's it. That is the problem, apparently. She said she wakes up looking like a crack whore. And there is so much hate on this woman online right now.
Why? Why? I don't understand. I mean, was the crack whore community offended?
Apparently, the crack whore community on Twitter is highly offended with this. Like, okay. I mean, who hasn't said... I mean, I know I've said crack whore before. I mean, I've met crack whores before. I've been around them before. Not by choice, but it's happened. Anyway, crack whore. That's why they're hating on this woman and saying she needs to delete her social media. I mean, there's other stuff I'm sure that they're angry with her about. So it's probably something that built up. But you see this as something that the Jets should feel like they need to make Zach Wilson's mom delete her social media. I mean, is it to that point, like this whole crack whore thing? Is it that big of a deal? Anyone else, hit us up on our social media at Detroit Dave 7, at Somerville CLE, at FCFS Pod. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I listen. We know that New York media is going to put Zach Wilson through the ringer as is, right? It's really all Zach Wilson can do is go out and perform well, and he'll be beloved. until the minute he has a shitty game, and then he'll be booed. That's just kind of how it works. Again, how are we going to force? We're just going to tell people to we don't like this. You delete your social media account. Do I think it's weird that somebody puts a video out of them not washing their makeup after a party and talking about it? Yes, absolutely, I do. But I
are you telling me you don't put that on your IG story all day?
Like I go through Twitter and there's just the weirdest shit I see on a daily basis, and I just scroll past it like, wow, that's Twitter for you. I mean, yeah, it's just somebody else doing weird stuff. I got people all over my Twitter feed climbing freaking milk crates and busting their shit. Yeah. That's all I've seen all day long.
And I saw one dude do it, and they're like, look at, I don't even remember what his name was. It was like White Mike or something. Some black dude named White Mike. He does it while rolling a blunt, and everyone's so proud of him.
I did see the
I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, so I just chalk it up to social media. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Zach Wilson, do I tell my mom to maybe chill a little bit with the tweets and stuff? Knowing, to your point, that she's not an unattractive woman, and he also looks like he's 10. He's kind of
the thing that throws me off.
He's kind of an easy target. Child there, there was this thing on Twitter where he was like looking at his phone, and people were like, "What's the text say?" And like the one guy's like, "I put Dunkaroos in your lunchbox or some shit." Or like I'm picking you up early from school or like whatever, which is in all in good fun, of course, and I find hilarious. But yeah, I mean, that's again, I think people need to stop trying to cancel people over the dumbest things.
There are reasons to cancel people.
Yes, there are.
And at Steffi Smalls, I believe, is the one who should be canceled that we saw earlier today.
And she's getting canceled, it looks like. Yeah, leave his mom alone for now.
Leaves, like, I'm going to turn into that dude who was yelling to leave Brittany alone. Like, leave Zach's mom alone.
Yeah.
But, like, I figure you just feel the same way I did. Like,
I didn't even see that. And, like, I would have just scrolled like it was no big deal. But I guess people are. Did they think that they're offending crack whores? That she was like. Apparently, Twitter now all of a sudden everybody on Twitter has feelings for crack whores now.
Yeah,
and so
I mean, it happens, I guess.
Yep, I guess that's where we are.
But I knew that you would probably have a similar reaction to that as I do. Now, this one, I believe, is going to make you a little more angry than the last one. I got something to show you here. Madden 22 came out this week, and this is their quarterback rankings. Matt Stafford, 83. Kyler Murray, 82. David Carr, 81. Colin Kaepernick, free agent, 81. Justin Herbert, 80. Kirk Cousins, 79. Trevor Lawrence, the rookie, first overall pick, 78. Colin Kaepernick in the game. Doesn't even play.
Make it make sense.
81.
Make it make sense.
81. Why?
Listen. Why is he even in the game?
I mean, free agent, fine, but 81?
Like, no, he can be a free agent, and once he gets signed, all the rosters update automatically anyway. You can add him at that point. I mean,
81.
Listen, Colin Kaepernick, all the baggage that he brings to the table aside, like the dude hasn't played football in like 5 years. Like, how is he an 81? And who decided that this was okay? Like. Again, I'm not going to be purchasing Madden this year, not because of Colin Kaepernick being an 81, but what sort of when people look at your game and then they see this, like how is any of what you do relevant or spot on when you do stuff like this? It makes no sense. I mean, Justin Herbert was ridiculous last year. Trevor Lawrence is one of the most highly touted prospects that has come out at the quarterback position for certainly a long time. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was the anointed number 1 overall pick when he came out of high school. And Kirk Cousins listen, you can have any thoughts you want about Kirk Cousins.
Kaepernick has ever had.
Yes. Kirk Cousins is secretly, he's had a really damn good career, right? And it's just the way it is. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like we're being trolled by Madden. It doesn't make sense, and there's really no. I would like to know Madden's producers, raters on how they came up with 81 instead of 51.
Maybe that's something we work on for next show, because we're not having the weed conversation we wanted to, because the former NFL quarterback finally sent him an email back and said he declined us. So maybe we do need to get a Madden rating guy on here to talk about this. Now, listen, for those who think, oh, you're two white guys and you got a problem with him kneeling for the flag and whatever, and has nothing to do with that. Colin Kaepernick, Madden rating, I don't think I'm going to be one of those guys who's like, oh, if you pick him up on your team, he's only got one play, QB kneel. No, we're not going to do that. That's not the way it is. This has nothing to do with the dude off the field.
He hasn't played forever. What's Tim Tebow's rating?
I mean, at 94? Tight end. At tight end? Yeah, he's probably a 96.
Yeah,
listen.
I don't know. I just think it's silly.
Kyler Murray, one overall point above Colin Kaepernick. Kyler Murray has been pretty damn good. Did he take a little step back last year? At points, yes. But Colin Kaepernick he wasn't that damn good. He had one good year, really. One really good year, and was average at best the rest of the time. Is he a guy who should be a backup on a team right now? If he stayed in the league, I think he'd be a pretty decent backup quarterback. If he stayed in the league. Now, he hasn't been in the league in years.
He has opportunities to try to be a backup quarterback.
At 33 years old. 33 now, he is. Hasn't played since 4 or 5 years we're talking. There is no reason he should be an 81. And I wanted to try to even use some kind of, I could debate this. We could go back and forth where I say he deserves it, but I can't. Because it makes no sense. Justin Herbert at an 80 I'm okay with Justin Herbert at an 80. Kirk Cousins is 79. Okay. Trevor Lawrence pretty high for number one overall pick at 78.
The other rankings make tons of sense. It's just like it's like one of those pictures. Like, tell me there's 3 vegetables in a car, and it's like, tell me which one of these pictures is not like the others.
Is it a Derek car?
I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's like, this just doesn't make any sense, and there's no excuse. There's nothing else to really say about it besides that. No. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I was after all the angry Lisa Wilson or whatever Zach Wilson's mom's name is. After all that, I'm like, let's see what else kind of weird stuff we can throw on the show tonight, and that comes up, and it's on Yahoo. I mean, I don't own the game, but I'm going to trust Yahoo as a source that this is an actual picture. So,
no, it is. It is.
Okay.
I've seen it, and I've seen some. I mean, 99% of the comments fall in the same line we do because it's the right way. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm sorry. Like, listen, you can't just not play for 5 years and still be the 10th ranked quarterback in Madden. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Matt Stafford only 2 points ahead. Matt Stafford's a damn good quarterback. Yeah. Kyler Murray, 82. Derek Carr has had a better career as a quarterback than Colin Kaepernick. And I'm not a big Derek Carr supporter. Derek Carr is a fine guy, fine quarterback. But there's a reason the Raiders have never fully been like, yes, we just can't wait to build around Derek Carr. Right. Have they given him the money? Yeah, because he's your guy, and you usually pay your guy, but they just haven't found anything better. They brought in Marcus Mariota, not to be the backup, to hope that Marcus Mariota could live up to the number 2 overall pick at one point.
And then they realized Marcus Mariota is kind of just Marcus Mariota.
He kind of is.
That's kind of who he is. You know what I mean? Like, you always hope, and Chucky's one of those guys that thinks he could be the restoration guy, like, right?
That's why he had 12 quarterbacks in Tampa.
Yeah, I can. Remember Nate Peterman, man. This guy, he knows how to play football. It's like, is that the guy that threw 7 picks in a game in Buffalo? Yeah. So there's always
5 incompletions.
Yeah, there's always a guy that a coach with such an ego that thinks he can restore some quarterback or try to make them who they are. But the problem with Marcus Mariota is, and it may have worked out, he started getting hurt, and all of a sudden what he does well has kind of been neutralized, and so he's just an average to below average pocket passer, and the writing's on the wall. I mean, with Marcus Mariota, he had a great ability to maneuver around the pocket. He wasn't necessarily had to be a scrambling quarterback, but he was able to buy time. And I thought that he would have a successful career, but then the injuries start happening, and the way that he plays the game is susceptible to bigger hits and more injuries.
Yep. And
to me, it's that simple with him. again, when you neutralize somebody's strength, then it makes them kind of just an average dude, and an average dude isn't getting it done at the NFL level.
100%. Can't argue anything you just said there. Now, on our next show, I think we should start talking college football. We got college football coming up pretty soon. Real football games.
Before, what about the Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC? What are your thoughts on that? Because we haven't been on the airways. I don't think so.
I think that was the last show we did. We brought that up a little bit, but I'm still with you. Like, yeah, but while we're talking that, I mean, I still don't think it makes sense for them because they're not that good. Texas especially, that's a big step forward for a team that's struggled in the Big 12. But as we're talking
Can we just admit Texas isn't what Texas, like.
They're the Cowboys.
They are the Cowboys. Exactly.
They are.
Like you were once a prominent, and listen, I'm not saying that they can't get back to that.
No, they definitely can. They just haven't.
But the thing is, like, when you look at them, it's not a lack of recruiting. It's not, you know what I mean? They have guys. It just, it hasn't worked out. When we're talking about schools like Texas and Oklahoma and Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama, like they're still getting top-notch recruiting classes. We just see that the coaches and the program structure that can make kids succeed. And ever since Mac Brown left, and even at the end of Mac Brown's tenure, they were kind of a dumpster fire. But since those Vince Young days and you know, all the good things from back then, it's not the same program. And
they're living on their name.
I'm interested to see like them just get beat up a little bit when it comes to the SEC, because they can't win the Big 12. They can't win the Big 12 as it is now.
They better figure it out. They got a few years with Sarkisian there now. I mean, you got to figure it out. But they're living on their name. And maybe when kids go there, it's like you said, they've got the talent. When kids go there, maybe they're like, hey, you know what? We're at Texas now. This is Texas. We just feel like we're better than everyone else. But everyone plays up to you, which is a thing I always bring up with my Cleveland Browns, where the 1 year they were expected to do good, everyone was ready for them and played up to them. They got their asses handed to them. At Ohio State, you have the mindset.
Fred was the coach.
Well, yeah, and he struggled, obviously. But at Ohio State, the mindset is always, we're going to get better. We need to kick ass every day. Yes, we're Ohio State, but we are going to bash your skulls in. Our head coach wants to put 100 points on their arch rival. When players get to Michigan, they go to a former Michigan head coach, talks about the good old days and what they used to be and what they used to have. Not what they're trying to build and continue to build and get better. Maybe they do a little bit, but it's not the same thing. At Alabama, every year is new. Alabama's number one almost every year. And every year, Saban says, who cares about what happened last year? This is a new year. They're still number one in the rankings, preseason rankings for this year, and I don't even think they're the best team in the SEC this year. I think that's Georgia.
I agree.
But we'll get to that.
But to your point, I think that coaching makes a way bigger deal at the college level, because coaching can win you football games, whereas in the NFL level, I'm not saying that coaching isn't important, but you're dealing with professionals at that point. You're dealing with guys that kind of know that they have to show up to work, because if they don't, it's kind of their job or it's the next contract they're playing for. I feel like with coaching in college, not only are you teaching the game of football, you're also trying to like get these guys along in life, right?
Yeah.
Everything's new. They're starting to work in this structured. It's a big time football when we're talking about some of these schools, and so I think that you'll see coaching, and Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, like the same teams we see every year. It's their coaching it's the guys. Yes, you have to have the talent, but to be as consistent as the schools that I've mentioned over the last 5 to 7 years, it starts and ends in one place. I mean, you can say what you want about Dabo Swinney or Nick Saban or Ryan Day to an extent, but these guys get pretty much everything they can out of the team, and it happens every year. To your point, Alabama, it's not quite like college basketball at Kentucky, but it certainly is. The minute these guys can go pro, they're gone, and then you're regrouping, and it's never like they skip a beat, right? They just don't. And by the end of the year, when we come into December, they're right there to go into the playoff. And regardless of what they look like early on, it's progression in college football. There's no preseason. We're talking about 18, 19-year-old kids that are starting to learn what to do, but the coaches have them so ready right away as compared to other programs where I feel like the talent, they're kind of banking on the talent more than they are the actual process in having the guys as ready as they can to play.
Absolutely. They look at the kids as what they saw them in high school.
Right.
And they expect that out of them, and it doesn't work. Tom Herman at Texas could have changed the culture a little more. He was more focused on putting up, posters above the urinals about how well your piss is that day, what color is it coming out. Like, that was the kind of stuff. I understand he's looking at that, but help these kids build their education, build their lives to be better. Get that going. Start to show the kids you care about more than football. Like, one thing about Nick Saban I will give him credit for is you said as soon as these guys are ready to go pro or eligible to go pro, they do. And sometimes he says, yeah, absolutely, you should, and he'll push them. So these guys go to Bama knowing that they don't have to stay there just because their coach is like, no, you should stay here. There's coaches that do that all the time, saying, no, you have to stay here. I expect you to do this. You owe this to me, whatever. Saban's not one of those guys. He'll tell a kid if he's ready. He'll tell a kid if he isn't ready. He told Mac Wilson he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. He told McCarron to go. McCarron went. He told Mac Jones to go. Mac Jones goes. He'll tell anybody the truth, which is one thing I will give him credit for, even though Saban comes off as a complete ass.
Well, you have to maximize your value at the right time, and I think nobody gets that better than Nick Saban.
He does.
Just understands it, and his job is to get you to the next level. And I'm sure it sucks to play for Nick Saban. I mean, it looks like it probably sucks to play for Nick Saban, but are you willing to do that in knowing that he's going to be the kind of guy that can get you to where you want to go? I mean, absolutely.
Yep. And that's how it's got to work.
Which is why it's so surprising Bill Belichick's had so much success, because I feel like there's a lot of similarities between Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, where I wonder if Bill Belichick in his mindset and philosophy came into the NFL right now with no background, would guys take him serious, or would he just wear on guys and piss guys off? I really do wonder that. I know he's a great mind, but
I mean,
the Patriot way is now you can say the Patriot way and you can do some of these things because of what they built with their championship and their resume. But if he came in and he had no resume, do guys still listen, or is it in one ear and out the other? I'm uncertain, but I think it's an interesting thing to think about.
I think we already saw that, and it happened here in Cleveland. When he came in with the Browns, there were guys who weren't buying into him because he came in the same guy that he is now, except he was even more hardcore. He was sleeping on his couch in his office like 2 hours a night. He was so hardcore then. And he cut Bernie Kosar, who Browns fans absolutely adored, and I get it. Bernie's a great dude, and people flip their shit. But he was trying to build the Patriot way then with the Cleveland Browns. You look at that staff he had. Kirk Ferentz still at Iowa. Nick Saban was a defensive coordinator. I mean, you had so much, and thank you, Sebastian Cornwell, as our new subscriber to our channel here on YouTube. But what he was building in Cleveland was the original Patriot way. The difference was he didn't have Tom Brady. The Patriot way started working when Tom Brady came in, and they started winning football games the way they were. Drew Bledsoe started to build the Patriot way to a certain extent because they were winning, kind of. But once Brady got in, they started winning the Super Bowls. The Patriot way became a true thing that they could follow. He doesn't win the Super Bowls. He's Matt Patricia, basically. Matt Patricia came in, same mindset as Bill Belichick did with the Browns early in the days.
So is it really the Brady way?
To a certain extent, yeah. But they worked together. In the early days, they worked together because they both had that killer mindset. But Brady's mindset, the same as Belichick.
He wore on Brady.
He did.
You know, and Brady was excited to go elsewhere, right? And what does Brady do? He just goes and wins another championship.
Night and day, coach-wise, too.
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely. It's to me, it's super, super interesting because, yeah, of course, Tom Brady may not have been the quarterback he is to this day without Bill Belichick and some of the things that they've done. But again, without the quarterback position in this league, you're not going to win, right? You have to have a competent quarterback, and you can throw a Brad Johnson at me, or you can throw quarterbacks that have not been great, but at the same time, it's always comes down to guys that can consistently get it done.
You're 100% right on that. And next week we'll move into college football. And looking at some of our comments here, we got some week 0 point spreads. Let's check them out here. James Lill, new subscriber. Bringing them up. UTEP, -9 versus New Mexico State. You got any thoughts on that?
Yes. Yeah. Give me UTEP all day.
All right. Illinois versus Nebraska.
James, is Nebraska going to be wearing the jerseys with the overalls?
Super Mario Brother ones?
That does make me sway on the line one way or the other. I will take Nebraska early on. Listen, Illinois' program just hasn't. They had a better year last year, but outside of the Mikel LaShore days, when they were kind of a decent program, it's been tough sledding for them because you're recruiting against. They're just not getting the recruits, right? They're not getting the Josh Browns. They're not getting the Mikel LaShores. Those guys are not coming through the building at the rate they once were. And I just think that they're just getting destroyed by Midwest recruiting to where you even throw Lovie Smith, who's a coach has had past success, he could do nothing, right? And so it's tough for me. I'm always going to go with the blue blood Nebraska. Yeah, give me Nebraska, UCLA. Man,
that's a lot of points, but
it will. Hawaii's always going to hang 4 or 5 on you. That's what Hawaii does with the air raid offense down there. 17 is a lot of points in the first. See, the thing is too is the big point spreads early on worry me from the perspective that we were alluding to earlier. Is these are a lot of young guys, a lot of new guys. I don't think things gel as quickly. So with that Fresno, that's a lot of points, man. So I would go with Hawaii and take the 17 and also go with 27 and go with UConn.
And these are off the top of the head Ward's wagers. We're getting free Ward's wagers tonight, baby.
Yeah, listen, man, I love the gambling perspective and I've done great with it since our show's been around. So it'll continue to be that way. Last year we started off a little slow because again, it was tough, man. We didn't have preseason. We didn't have a lot to kind of go back on. But college, there's certainly – I think college, there's more of an advantage to where you see some of these like 50-point spreads. Mm-hmm. And you look at it like from a perspective of, yes, the other team is way, way better as Trey Lance gets picked off.
Rough night for the Niners quarterbacks over there in the preseason.
Yeah. So you look at it from that perspective. So you're like, listen, the other team's way better, but 45 points, like how far up are they to where people start coming out of the game?
Exactly.
Coaches start laying off the accelerator. So I think there's definitely value in those higher numbers to whereas in the NFL, it's such a parity league that you're not going to see numbers like that. So I definitely like to look down the slate to some teams with a little higher upside that are getting, the other team's laying, 35, 45 points, and you can find value in those plays.
And we will get back towards wagers once, regular season starts. Week 0 is great. So much can happen in college. I love college football. I'm so happy to see football back. And remember, Ward's Wagers sponsored by Latani CBD Olive Oil. To order, call 440-479-4832 or email anandamij@gmail.com. It's $16.99 a bottle. On sale now, $14.99 a bottle. Call, get it. It's good stuff. It's great olive oil. It's Latani olive oil, which is some of the best olive oil on the planet. And then you got the CBD factor in it. You can use it to rub it on your joints. You can make yourself better with that, depending on how you feel and what CBD actually does. But we'll get to that later. Next week, I think we start introducing college football. We'll break it down, preview. Both of us, though, look like Georgia. We think Georgia's the best team in the SEC. Is Georgia the favorite to win it in your mind? Just early talk here.
It's hard, man. So on paper, yes. I think Georgia is the better roster. But again, it's hard for me to fade anything but Bama. I'd be interested to see what the numbers are in the conference. But man, Georgia again has a fantastic running back, as they always seem to have. And talent wise, it's gonna be the one game that separates this thing, and it'll be when they face off with each other.
I don't, James.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for checking us out. And hope you
I don't see either team losing 2 or 3 games, right? It's going to come down to the game where they play each other, and then when they more than likely, potentially, I guess, play each other in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, and we'll get all into that next week. I mean, I don't know even the schedule right now. I haven't looked at Georgia's schedule. All I know is that on paper, this team is absolutely loaded. However, like when I look at Georgia, and I got some notes on it, and I wasn't really going to get all into it today, but I'm looking at Georgia. Is Kirby Smart, if he doesn't win this year, is he just Mark Richt with better fundraising? I mean, because they built a brand new facility, or a bunch of brand new facilities for that football team. I mean, Mark Richt had a roster that had AJ Green, Noshawn Moreno, and Matt Stafford, and couldn't win a Natty. I mean,
he's not, though, in my opinion, for the simple fact that, dude, like Alabama's legit, right?
They are.
I mean, LSU's been bad the last 2 years. Was it 3 years ago they won the title? Okay, 1 year. Okay, 2 years ago they won the title. They were atrocious last year. And again, to what we speak about is LSU went from Joe Burrow to not having a quarterback, and they were bad, like really bad. And I know Jamar Chase sat out. I get it. But, like, Alabama doesn't skip beats like that. Alabama doesn't have down seasons like that. Georgia's been really good lately. It's just it's hard to win in the SEC. And Kirby Smart, I think, is a good football coach. And
I think he's done a good job.
And they've been consistently good. And so I think they're definitely going to win the SEC. It might be this year. I think this is probably one of their best chances to. But if we're laying odds or betting something right now, it's hard for me to fade Bama to any extent.
And I'm 100% with you, even though I think they're the best team. And I think Clemson and Bama can both have down years possibly this year. Because after DJ...
What's down year, though? What's down year?
I mean, not making the playoffs.
3 losses?
Yeah, if that even. Not making the playoff. I mean, behind DJU, what is quarterback situation like in Clemson? Bama, really good still. What are we getting out of quarterback? They always seem to just plug someone in and make it work. I mean, it doesn't matter. But when you look at some of these teams, like OSU, we look at them, they got the best quarterback room in the country. But which one of these guys is really going to step up? Is going to be C.J. Stroud? Is Quinn Ewers eventually make it into the lineup and become the Trevor Lawrence type prospect that everyone makes? All that and more when we get to our next show.
Nod for being the starter, didn't he?
C.J. Stroud will be the starter. But does he hold on to the job?
Hopefully for us.
Yeah. I mean, the only way he doesn't,
if he doesn't, then things aren't going well.
They lose. And I mean, it's going to be interesting. That roster is loaded. What Ryan Day has done, incredible. I mean, you look at the
seamless transition.
Yeah.
Seamless transition. I could argue that he's a better coach than Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer is just a better recruiter. But we'll see.
I mean, the recruiting classes that Ryan Day has coming in, quarterback-wise especially.
Yeah.
I mean, again, though, in Ohio State, which everyone knows Ohio State quarterbacks trash at the next level. Justin Fields might be the guy that changes that. Joe Burrow, they can kind of claim. But hang on. I'm going to stop right there. Talking about Joe Burrow, something I've seen on Twitter, and I wasn't going to get in this argument with anyone. I would rather talk to you about it.
Bring it on. Let's talk.
People saying the Buckeyes made one of the biggest mistakes in college football history by choosing Dwayne Haskins over Joe Burrow. How? Yes or no?
No, how?
I'm with you. Dwayne Haskins set records with the Big Ten. Yes.
Like 50 touchdowns and like 6 picks.
Yeah. Yes, Burrow had the greatest college season of all time, but look at what Burrow had around him. It was a much better team. Damn, my forehead looks huge.
Anyway, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Okay, give me that any day.
Edwards-Helaire. Yeah. No, you're right. But again, like
it was a rare thing that worked out for both guys.
It's except Haskins at the next level
in the NFL.
But I mean, it's tough because when you have a room like Ohio State had at the time, you in somebody's eyes, you're not going to make the right choice if both guys have success, which they did. It's not like Dwayne Haskins was not good, like the best Big Ten season we've ever seen. So, in hindsight, you can say, "Oh yeah, Joe Burrow won the Natty," which was great. But like at the same time, you can't also say and play hindsight that they made the wrong choice because I just don't think that that's accurate.
Nope. Dwayne Haskins won that job.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow's a hell of a quarterback. Dwayne Haskins still can be a hell of a quarterback. The only thing is, he was never nearly as mature as Joe Burrow.
And he's still
not. He's still not. Exactly. I mean,
and I worry about Joe Burrow too. I mean, Joe Burrow's coming off a very significant injury.
And that offensive line still blows.
Yeah. You decided to go take the guy that apparently drops every pass now.
3 weird drops too.
Yeah. So I saw his first 3 targets the other day with 3 drops.
So are him and Soul bust now at this point because Soul doesn't drop deep enough on one play and Chase had 3 drops?
Dude's changing from left tackle to right tackle. Let's be easy on the man, right? Like everything's fine.
Are they also rated lower than Colin Kaepernick and Madden now?
Exactly. I actually think the Lions' offensive line has the pieces, the one part of the team to be a top 5 offensive line in the league. So we'll see
on that.
But yeah, it still boggles my mind. And yeah, you want to look and look at the weapons between Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I get the weapons are there, but what are the weapons worth if your guys on the IR, right?
You are putting a lot of hope in Jonah Williams at left tackle.
Yeah.
And
just that simple. And I mean, again, Sewell might not have been the right pick. Only time will tell, but I feel like you chose the shiny car over the Toyota Camry that can get you back and forth to work. The shiny car's got transmission issues, right? One will get you from A to B, but I might take the one that gets you from A to B, as the opposite of the nice fancy Maserati that has transmission issues.
If Jonah Williams turns out to be good, then they made the right choice. If he doesn't, they made the wrong choice. The good news is Bobby Hart is no longer his right tackle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll know sooner rather than later. But
Listen,
but yeah,
I think the
Bengals
have a chance to be third best team.
Good.
I do
think
too.
Jamar Chase is going to be very good.
Both of us sat here throughout the entire draft process and said he's by far the best wide receiver prospect in this draft.
Yeah, and I think,
he also took a year off of football.
Yeah, and I love Devontae Smith, right? I do. I just think that we could run into durability issues, which of course we could with anybody playing the skill position with the ball in their hands. But
I mean, there's 70 wide receivers in this draft that were just so goddamn good that you can't put them anywhere. Yeah, I mean, Diami Brown's a guy who's going to make plays for Washington that people just overlooked, but he could have been the best prospect at North Carolina last year.
I think even Amon-Ra St. Brown, who the Lions drafted, is going to have a very nice year. But yeah, it's tough because people can argue Jamar Chase doesn't create separation at an elite level and whatnot, but
give him a few weeks, let him get back into football.
He was elite in the SEC and he flashed off the screen like very few people that I've seen. So I saw high hopes for him.
Set a rookie record last year as for most yards. He wasn't the best player on his LSU football team at his position.
Yep. And Justin Jefferson's awesome.
Justin Jefferson is awesome. Jamar Chase was better at LSU as a freshman. But with that, anything else you want to throw out tonight?
No, man. It was good to get back talking
football.
Yeah. Wait, does college start this week?
I believe so. We got week 0, just random ass game starting at the end of the week because we're end of August now. August 28th, Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like that first random like Toledo and Bowling Green, Toledo Bowling Green. They won't play right away, but Ball State, your Toledo baby. Ball State action on like a Tuesday.
And, dude, Akron, who can't win football games, is now under. I mean, they're under review for illegal benefits in their football program.
Didn't know
How
that.
bad are you that you're trying to cheat and you still suck? I mean, come on. At least Belichick cheats and they win football games.
Last thing.
Hit it.
So I saw this, and I can't tell you who this guy is, right? He's like an 18-year-old that like just signed on a deal with like an airline, and he's making like $1 million. And it's just like I'm interested to see. Because the only thing that's going to happen is the bigger time schools like Ohio State and Alabama, they're just going to be able to pay more. Or they're going to be able to, not the school itself directly paying, but they're going to be able to get you in with people that do pay more. And I just think that makes recruiting harder and harder on schools. And that's why I eventually see Division I football splitting up to more of a 1A, 1B type scenario instead of,
the SEC, now Big 12 Alliance versus Big 12, Pac-12, and Big 10 Alliance.
Right. Something along those lines to where, you almost have, 1A, 1B, or even to like a minor league extent. But we'll see what happens because, I mean, I know your minor league you would say is Division II, but it's weird how things are going to unfold in the next 5 to 10 years on the college landscape of things.
Yeah. Sam Howell was. You talk about that. I'm trying to find out the deal that Sam Howell got for the name, image, likeness. If I can find it real quick, I'll hit you with it. But Sam Howell, who I'm pretty sure, and Bo Nix is getting deals, so they're giving them to anybody at big schools. But Sam Howell, who doesn't eat like chicken fingers or burgers or anything like that, Bojangles. Bojangles signs him to a name, image, likeness deal, and this dude is like never had chicken or burgers, and like he eats mac and cheese or some shit. Like that's what he eats. Like this is, I get it, but I'm not going to Bojangles.
Hey, Bojangles hits though, dude. If you never had Bojangles, it's legit.
One, I'm not going because Sam Howell endorses it. I'm going because I'm a fat bastard. But
it's chicken, dude. I'm in.
Give me some big O linemen promoting chicken, and I'll be like, yeah, you know what? If that dude likes it, I'm getting it. Like DJ Ugalele is the other guy for Bojangles, and DJ's a big boy, and that boy he probably loves him some chicken. Sam Howell, man, come on.
Yeah, but my man probably takes his like free Bojangles card in on a daily basis, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a rewards member. Please give me a giant thing of a giant bucket of fried chicken." They're like, "Sir, you've been here 3 times today."
I mean, it's ridiculous, but yeah, we definitely got to get into the preseason or the talk of college football next week. We'll hit that, and we got to do our NFL preview. It's just good to be back, man.
It is.
But before we get out of here, man, you've been busy with some golf shows. Talk about your new golf stuff.
Yeah. So I'm starting a new show effective tomorrow at 7:30. The Approach Podcast with my guy Rob. It's sponsored by Fanshare Sports, which is super cool. It's going to be pretty interactive, getting a bunch of different people's opinions, having different people on to kind of talk and go through golf as we. I feel like for me, golf DFS wise has kind of taken off, and it's been something enjoyable, and all the people in the fantasy DFS golf community are awesome. So we're going to try to make it as interactive as possible. Some lesson stuff, some DFS stuff, some game strategy, game theory kind of things to try to give you ideas of plays that people might not necessarily thinking of. So we're very excited about it. I appreciate Rob. Dude's one of the best. He's been very, very successful in the DFS space. I think he made like over 6 figures of winnings last year. So guys doing work, man. So very excited to be part of that. Very appreciative of Fanshare Sports, and so check us out tomorrow. And as always, I'll be ranting golf. Golf finishes tomorrow. Hurricane came through. No golf today. Very sad for me. It was a weird day. But it'll be good to get back in the swing of things tomorrow.
Check that out for Drew tomorrow night at 7:30. Follow him on Twitter at Detroit Dave. Follow me at Somerville CLE. This is the Full Coverage Football Show. We're out for the night. We'll see you next week when we talk college football. Tell you who we think our big winner will be of the Natty. Who slides back? Who's going to do some damage? Who might win the Heisman? We're going to have to do some research on this because I don't even know any of the schedules, man. I feel lost. Like it came up so damn quick. But with that, go.
James got me fired up for some spreads football wise. But yeah, I haven't. It's tough to like have it, and I love college football, but of course, I feel like the NFL is kind of our deal. We definitely like to talk college, but it's coming up quick. And I mean, next week, hell, we're gonna have some plays. Ward's Wagers will be firing off next week. And telling you why Rice is going to beat Idaho or whatever the hell it may be. So I look forward to taking a look at it myself.
Give me the taters. Give me the taters all day, every day.
I'm with you.
Brother, thank you as always. Great show. We will see you guys next week. Until then, remember, as always, if you live the life you love the life you live. Night, kids. And that video is not going to work, so we're going to end the show right now.